Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hey. And I'm from the League of Knights, switch class number 2, back before we were ever Phi Kappa Psi. And I'm batch number 22, and I think I've met some of you folks, a lot of you folks at Alumni Weekend last April. Just a little bit about me for a second here. I'm married with 3 children. I have 2 kids, 11 years old, 9, and 4. I live in San Francisco, California, and our baseball team, the San Francisco Giants, are actually going to be starting Game 7 of the World Series versus Kansas City in a few minutes. That's a proof point of my commitment. Everybody's going crazy over here in San Francisco about the World Series. But, I'm going to have some prepared remarks here that I'd like to get into. I'm going to talk a little bit about history, Phi Kappa Psi, and how I was involved. My little bit of background about me, and then get into a little bit of advice. I've been out for over 20 years, and I've learned a few things, and typically the hard way. So if there's anybody that I can help out there, or there's anything you walk away with that, you see a situation that I've talked about or whatever, and you're armed with a way to deal with it, or some advice on how to make it better, a situation that you're in. But just to get started here, I know you have your chapter meeting to get started here, but back in the early 1990s, over 20 years ago, and I can't believe I'm saying that, I've been out of the field for 20 years, I was sitting in the exact same spot all of you are sitting in right now. I was a little uncertain, I was a little unsure about the future. I was thinking about a broad range of things, like finding my next co-op for the next quarter, what my career would be, what company I would work for, what would I do after RIT, where would I live. Back in the early 90s, there were uncertain times. The economy wasn't that great under Bush. And, it was not the easiest time to get a job. So, you get the point. So I'm sitting there in the seat that you're sitting in right now, and, I was thinking about these things. And when I was sitting there, I was certain that I was on to something. Great things were going to happen. And I was looking around the room at the people in the room, the chapter meeting with me. And I said to myself, this is a kick-ass group of guys. Extraordinary, in fact. And I was lucky enough to be associated with all of them. And I look to the left, I see a Rob Parada, I see a Jim Harmon, I see a Jeff Taylor, I see a Toby Metcalf, a Dave Nadeau. I could go on and on for the next 20 minutes. These are the kind of guys who are extremely loyal, of the highest character, and they give the shirt off their back for their brother. And that's the group that I wanted to be with. I found the group I wanted to be with. So together, this group is just the beginnings of something amazing. And all of you sitting in that room right now are the evidence of that amazing thing that we, got going back in the day. And every year, I kept track. I came back to Alumni weekends occasionally. I kept track of what was going on. Every year, the amazing people that followed us just kept making it better, kept picking it up notch after notch after notch, to the point you're winning Grand Arch Council Awards, you're in the Dennis Book of World Records, you're the talk of the campus. This is exactly what we set out to do, but you don't know, back 20 years ago, how this is going to end up. So it's an amazing thing that's happened here, and I'm just so proud of all the groups that came on to this journey after Toby, Rob, and I all graduated, and then everyone since all the way up to you guys. You guys are you're going to make your mark on the fraternity. Some of you already have. So to be honest, back in the day, back then, we didn't have an abundance of mentoring and guidance beyond our outstanding chapter advisor, Dr. Timothy Engstrom, and then Mike DiCarangelo came a little bit later. And frankly, we might not have known exactly how, where to go or what to do, who to get guidance from, but we did have strong chapter advisors, and we had a strong group of guys. And I always thought to myself when I came on, I came in as a league of nights too, so I wasn't one of the first guys, but I still felt like I was part of that first group. What did I do? I took initiative. I took an active role to ensure what we started would be successful. I helped solve problems for our newly formed colony. We became Phi Kappa Psi colony for a while before we became a chapter in '92. And I gained invaluable leadership skills during this process. Skills that I still use today. Very transferable to your career. And every single day of the last 20 years, I've used the skills that I used back when I was a chapter, and I developed them during chapter. And I had a few roles when I was back in the chapter days of the colony. I was the finance chair. I think I might have been the first finance chair, actually, because we had back in the League of Nights days, we had a small little budget, and we had a duty we had to pay, and it wasn't very much, $20 a quarter, or whatever it was. But now we became a colony. All of a sudden there's insurance, and there's all these other expenses. Not near the expenses that you guys have today, but it was more than $20 a quarter. So we needed a budget. I needed to set dues, so I took on this task. And it was basic math, outgoing, incoming, adding it up, what do we need, guessing, often, how many brothers we're going to have, who was going to go to co-op, and who wasn't. All of this was factored in. And the big test for me, and here's the skill that I used, and the skill that I developed was proposing this to the chapter, that their dues were going to go from $20 or $25 a quarter to $90 a quarter. And that involved influence. That involved credibility and trustworthy. And Ken knew what the hell he was doing. And then you look at that balance sheet. So that was the first role I took on, was finance chair. Second role, pledge master. I was pledge master for pledge class #1 for Phi Kappa Psi. We built a template and a foundation for bringing in new brothers, the onboarding of new brothers. You guys know exactly how important that is. Back then, we're figuring it out, and some guys wanted to have fun with this. Some guys took it really seriously. So we found a spot in the middle to bring on new brothers. We wanted the brothers to prove that they wanted to be a brother, but we're also, this is serious. So we put together a program, a foundation, a baseline, went forward, and then the last role I had was president. This group of outstanding men needed a leader to navigate the choppy waters. Very choppy waters at times, of the new fraternity at RIT, and we had to prove all these things to national to get our charter, to have a chance to become an official national charter member of Phi Kappa Psi. So I did that, and we created part of the role of president back then was we needed to establish ourselves, show RIT and the rest of the community, the Greek community, we meant business and we belong there. And we created a culture of recruitment. A group of men with diverse personality and diverse backgrounds, with like character and ideals. And I think we did a pretty damn good job of it. So just a little bit about me. So I ended up graduating in 1994. So, after I played my role of finance chair, pledge master, and president, we had all these great folks that we recruited on, Matt Nedden and Bill Bernhardt, and, I could go on and on. But we had a really great group that came in afterwards, and they took the chapter to another level beyond what we were working on. So I graduated in '94, which is exactly 20 years ago, 2 decades ago. However, I did graduate 20 years ago, but my career started well before. And my career really started when I landed my first co-op job in 1991. Motorola, Intel, all these companies were coming to town. They only had 1 or 2 spots for each for a summer co-op. And I know I was really interested in Motorola because of the famous name, the communications company was considered one of the best companies to work for in the Fortune 500, so I'm like, I want to work at that company. So how did I get that role? And this is part of, I stood out. I researched Motorola. I researched the market they're in. So when I was interviewed, I had more than my resume. I had more than talking about my photolithography, my chemical vapor deposition. I had references. I proactively went to Dr. Engstrom and others, and I had them write up a reference for me before my interview, not waiting for the interviewee to ask me. I actually had one in advance, just in case they needed one. And then, of course, good GPA, attorney leadership positions, proudly displayed on the resume. That was actually a positive. Okay, and then just, being yourself in the interview. So I was lucky enough to get the job. I did all my co-ops at Motorola, and I ended up final places at Motorola thinking I found my dream job. All my co-ops were in the fab, bunny suit. I'm a tech, I'm a process engineer, and I'm working with techs in the fab, making the chips. I thought I found my dream job as a process engineer in Motorola fab. That lasted all but 3 months after I graduated. Once I was exposed to the business side of high tech. So I switched within 3 months of graduating and taking my first role because I happened to be on a rotation program where they rotate you through a few different job functions, and what do they have to do marketing, and I'm like, I'm sold. So I hung up my bunny suit, which I wore for 5 years at RIT, and now I'm like all my co-ops, and I decided to move over to marketing, which is running and jumping in the deep end of the pool, basically, because I really hadn't had very many business classes at all, and I was, but I took on the challenge, got 3 years in marketing, and then I moved into sales. Was with the National Progressive Marketing with sales, so I'm the customer-facing entity for my company to customers, and that's where the business gets started. So I've been doing sales now for 17 years. I've seen quite a bit in 20 years. Seeing companies I worked for get merged, get acquired, IPO, go through a leveraged buyout, private equity. I've fundraised with venture capitalists. I've closed $500 million deals personally. Kindle was probably my biggest deal. Kindle, winning the processor in that. My team won that, and that was probably worth about $160 million of business over 3 years. That's over a $500 million deal. And now, moving forward to today, I'm the Senior Vice President of Worldwide Sales for a hot, late-stage startup high-tech company here in Silicon Valley. We focus on cybersecurity, cloud and data center solutions. I think you guys must talk about a lot of that back at RIT. And all the experiences way back when we were sludging what we did nights all the way to today, the attorney had so much influence on what was the outcome, and I feel like I've had a pretty successful outcome. And that's just my story in a nutshell. I want to give some advice now. I'm going to have 4 angles here. Perseverance, the importance of networking, creating a personal brand, and usage of LinkedIn. So I'll start with perseverance. Remember, this is not easy. This is hard. Okay, it takes a lot of courage to, go to a school like RIT, pay all that money to go to RIT, or be lucky enough to get a scholarship for you, and then, be part of a fraternity that takes up a lot of time, and then, when you move into the next phases, as you become a junior and a senior, you're co-oping, and then you get into your career. None of this is easy. You'll face many ups and downs. You'll be frustrated, you'll get stressed, failures and successes are in your future. For example, you might not get the job you want, a project you're working on at work is canceled, whatever you're doing, it doesn't go right. That's normal. Stay the course, do not give up, keep pushing forward. Okay, and these are all basic things, but they are so true. Keep driving to your goals, don't give up, do not give up. Second thing, networking. Vital, critical, a must-do for success. You will have an infinite number of opportunities to network. socially and professionally. You're going to be at office, and I'm going to be moving into more on the career side here. Office happy hours, professional conferences, training events, professional relationships with colleagues and experts in your field profession, etc., etc., etc. So, be interesting. When you're going to meet somebody or for the first time, or you're going to go to an event and have a theme, research in advance. I guarantee you no one else will. Stand out in the crowd. It's very competitive. You're going to impress somebody if you do this, and that person's going to remember you later for a job opening they have that represents a promotion or something good. Okay? So stand out. No one else will. Okay? Regarding relationships, target, build, maintain. You already do it now. You did it in high school. You did it when you were a kid. Okay? It's hard to do, especially when you get married and you start having kids and you have more responsibilities at work. It's harder to maintain relationships. And I'm angling towards the professional relationships here. So my advice is I use lunch for professional relationships. It's an hour and a half or an hour. It's the easiest to maintain, easiest to coordinate, and everybody eats lunch typically. So I maintain dozens and dozens of relationships, and I have a pretty good cadence during the course of the year. I just stay in contact with key people that I need to stay in contact with. Okay? Personal brand. Developing a personal brand. That's you. Okay? This represents the value you are able to consistently deliver to others. Okay? It's not self-promotion. Look at me, look at me. It's what value you are consistently delivering to others. So you all have to decide who you are and how you want to be received and perceived and build on it. And along the way, influence and respect are earned. I learned that the hard way. I joined this marketing team 3 months out of school, 23 years old, and I think I'm the top shot you hire from RIT, and that doesn't equal respect. Yet it has to be earned, because there's marketing people there that have kicked ass for many years who are saying, who does this guy think he is coming in here, blah, 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 blah. So you've got to earn your influence and respect. You just don't come in and start popping out like I do. Be aware and cognizant how people are receiving you. Be viewed as the guy who gets the job done, not the guy who has an explanation why things are not getting done. Okay, so I'm just saying personal brand. Be very aware of how you're being received by others and figure out ways where you're adding value, and that your value should be a two-way street. Obviously, you're trying to reach out and network and engage with other people because they're providing value to you. You need to also figure out a way that you're adding value back to them, and then you're going to have a very long-term relationship that's going to be very symbiotic. The last piece of advice I want to give is on LinkedIn. This medium is so powerful. It represents an opportunity for you to be on display to the world. Often, your LinkedIn profile will be your first impression. Always make it a good one. And the first impression is going to potential employers, colleagues, business partners, and the list goes on, okay? I use LinkedIn several times per day. I found it to be a very vital tool for my sales and marketing career. I look up the profile of everyone I deal with, everyone. The information tells me quite a bit. It saves me about 3 to 6 months of time that somebody that I'm going to be having a relationship and going to be meeting with and engaging with often, after that first meeting. I go on LinkedIn, I save 3 months. And then I'm also sizing up the person. You can just tell, when you're looking at a profile. Is this the person that I want to do business with or not? And some things on the LinkedIn will scream out at you. Okay, and then I just want to reiterate, all of you are going to be receiving some outstanding LinkedIn training by my esteemed brothers, Metcalf and Corrada, in the next few weeks on November 22nd. So I'll just table the rest of my comments on LinkedIn for their training. But please create a profile if you don't have one. Keep enhancing a profile if you do have one, and take it very seriously. And if your resume, if you on display for the world to see, and the better it is, the better it will be for you and your career. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. I'd like to open it up to any Q&A.
Matt?
Two-part question.
Two-part question.
First, what were the major effects? What were the major things that affected your decision to go from engineering to business? And then two.
I'll ask the first one first. What were the major things that affected your decision to go from engineering to business?
All right, great question. So I'll admit, when I was in my last couple co-ops at Motorola, I was exposed to folks that were business side because it was a networking event. Okay, so Motorola has an engineer. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Ken.
So engineering to business.
Yeah. So Motorola had a program to onboard new engineers, and Motorola had a program to onboard sales and marketing folks, and they would take those people from engineering programs at schools like MIT, Berkeley, Purdue, the traditional top engineering schools. So I got exposed to those folks that were in those programs during my co-ops, and then I asked around, I researched, I found out who was in charge, and I just asked a lot of questions, and I always thought that the belly suit and the micro-E and the soft engineering, I said I found my dream job. I was being a little facetious earlier. I'm like, this is going to be a tough road. That's what for my personality set. So I was lucky enough to network and know the right people. I made a great first impression of the people in charge of the sales, and they just laughed. It was a lot of it was luck, and some of it was, a lot of research, and just, always treat every situation seriously. Don't be too uptight where nobody wants to hang out with you, but make sure you're serious about it. Get drunk at these events, don't drink too much. Be very aware of who you're talking to and the kinds of words you're using and the phrases, and honestly, you just have to make a good impression. Because, these people who are running sales for Motorola, they've been around the block a few times, and they know you're a 22 or 23-year-old, and be as well polished as possible, make a good first impression, network, ask a lot of questions, research, and I did a lot of that, thinking, because I was towards the end of my days at RIT, I was questioning whether I wanted to be a I wanted to be a process engineer, and I found my way out and I jumped on it.
So the second part of the question?
Well, yeah, I think let's just go up, why did he personally?
Why don't you repeat it?
Never mind, there was none. Any other questions?
Oh.
Rob?
So I thought about doing something similar where even though I have an engineering degree, doing more of the management aspect.
Any other questions?
Hang on, Ken.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to it, then repeat it.
Do you have any reservations or regrets, or are you still doing engineering work, but more so in a managerial aspect? You understand?
Yeah, this question comes from Rob, a fifth-year biomed engineer. He said he's also interested in doing the same thing as far as studying engineering and then going with the management route. He wants to know if you have any regrets or reservations about making the jump from engineering to the business side of things, and if you still use your engineering degree today.
That's another great question. So, do I have any reservations doing it, or do you think? Can you expand on the first part of the question?
Did you have any reservations when you were doing it, and do you have any regrets?
Zero regrets. I'm very happy that I did it. My gut was, feeling was right, I was 23, 24 at the time, it could have been a big mistake, but, it wasn't. And yes, I still use my engineering degree. I just moved from the making and designing and developing of chips to the selling and marketing of chips. So I stayed within the higher level domain, but I just moved to the business side of it. But I still work with the vice president of engineering at my company all the time. And I'm working with engineers because the engineers are the ones who make the decisions to use our chip versus other chips in their designs. And so I'm constantly using both sides of my brain.
And is there more money in making that switch?
Is there more money in making the switch to the management/business side?
Well, you guys have put a good question. So, it worked out for me, for sure, but I don't want to shortchange the engineers because I did work for a company briefly called Palo Alto Semiconductor, okay? And that kind of name probably doesn't mean anything to anybody. These guys were a startup that Steve Jobs acquired back in 2008. Steve Jobs acquired this company for the design talent, because these guys were the best at designing processors. Steve Jobs wanted his own processor design team for the iPhone and for the iPod, or for the tablet. And all those guys are billionaires right now. and they're the propeller head of the gift when it comes to patents. There's multiple patents, and they're just considered the best processor design team. The rest of them originated from DEC, which is a company that was, prominent back in the 70s and 80s in Boston. And a lot of these guys reside in the Marlboro and, the Boston area. And they had a ton of money to go to Apple. So I would say there can be money made in engineering, and that's good, very good money. Especially if you're hooked on with a company that gives out ownership or equity, and you hook on with a successful company, or you participate in making the company successful, and there could be some really good money being an engineer. So I don't want to. Sales and marketing is just a different they're compensated in a different way, and there might be higher upside in cash. Putting aside the equity or acquisition. There's a possibility of making a lot more money from a cash perspective, but a lot of times, engineers are, if you're a coder and you're in Silicon Valley right now, you're making at least $300 to $350 probably cash right now in Silicon Valley. So engineers can make some good money.
Augie?
What are the downsides to living in Silicon Valley?
What are the downsides to living where you live?
Cost of living is the downside, and that's the number one. Number one is the cost of living. Number two is that it is a little crowded on the roads during commute time. So a lot of people have to live close to where they work because of that. I happen to have a 35-mile commute each way. So I live up near San Francisco, but I work down in San Jose. And being in sales and marketing, I had a little bit more freedom to work from home or choose when I decide to, choose when I commute. And so I'll leave at 9:30 or 10 after the traffic's cleared out, and then go down because my job, I run red-light sales, so I don't need to be in the office at 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning. So I'm happen to be lucky enough to earn my commute and how long it's going to be, but sometimes it's a trade-off, because, living close to the city is pretty damn cool. Living in San Francisco and then get the commute, it's just a trade-off. So it's so amazing to live in this area that the downsides are minuscule compared to the upsides of being here.
Did you ever, and if so, do you still have fraternal experience on your resume?
Do I still have what?
Your experiences in fraternities, like such as being president.
Yes. I started on my resume.
All right, Nick.
Founding father and president on my resume for Phi Kappa Psi.
Wait, which one did you say?
Founding
Sure.
I
father.
was an ROTC as well, and I was the battalion commander of the Army ROTC unit, so I have that, and I have the Phi Kappa Psi both on my resume still.
Nick.
What sort of opportunities when working in San Francisco are there for travel to specifically Asian countries? for people working in technology.
So a brother wants to know, what are the opportunities for travel to Asian countries from companies located in your area?
Well, I just returned from China on Friday, so I was in China all last week. It depends on the weather that you're in. There's a lot of there's opportunities in your sales and marketing to travel worldwide. I typically go to Scandinavia, I go to mainland Europe, the UK, Israel, Japan, Korea, and China are the typical places where I go outside of the U.S. So when you're trying to win business, when you're trying to win business at these other companies in these other countries, you need to travel though. You need to see your face. So, and there's also opportunities for a lot of companies outsource their manufacturing to some of these locations, like in China or Taiwan. So that, and if you happen to be an engineer that's part of a operation or a manufacturing group within a company, you might get an opportunity to travel over as an engineer and work with other engineers on making whatever they're making for, like Apple. Like Apple outsources stuff to China, and so if you're an engineer at Apple that happens to be on a manufacturing team, you get to travel over to wherever your manufacturing site is located over in China or Taiwan or wherever, and you get to, that's another angle of travel as well. There's a lot of brothers, a lot of alumni that actually travel worldwide. I happen to be one of them, but there are several folks. Bill Bernhardt actually lives in Germany right now, and but I know that Joe Marie, he works for Google. He's traveling all over the world regularly. It's good. It's a double-edged sword. I love. It's amazing to go overseas and to travel the world and see and learn international business skills. Also, but it's also when you have your family man. It's hard to be away. It's a hardship for the family actually. So it is a double-edged sword. But I try to condense the amount of time I'm gone, and I try not to stay over on weekends. So like when I go to China, I leave on Sunday, and the flight for Chicago Sunday night to get into Beijing, and then I take the fast train around China, a few cities, and I'm back from Shanghai to LA on Friday night. I leave Shanghai on Friday night and arrive here on Friday night. So I'm gone Sunday night to Friday night, and I usually try to keep it to that. Other guys that lead worldwide sales teams like me or at other companies, sometimes a lot of those guys stay for 2 weeks when they're overseas. It's easier to do when you don't have family. So I like to get back for the weekend.
We have one last question for you, Ken, before we have to call it quits. Rob?
Okay.
I was going to say 2 questions, but they're short. One, why didn't he put Pledge Master on his resume? And 2, has he seen Sun Ha?
All right. First question: Why didn't you put Pledge Master on your resume? And second question: Have you seen Sung Ha?
Have I seen that? What's the second part?
Have you seen Sung Ha? Huh.
Oh, okay. I did not put Pledge Master on my resume because there's some negative connotations around the word Pledge Master that I just don't need to explain to anybody. So, I on controlling the way I'm being received and perceived by anybody who's looking at that. Not that it was bad, but most people don't know. Most people aren't lucky enough to know what we know, being in Phi Kappa Psi. And they're gonna have me. I'm gonna avoid whatever perception that they will come up with. So that's why I don't put it on my resume. The second part, somehow I have not seen Sundown. No.
All right, thanks, Ken. Do you have any parting words before we go?
I hope this was helpful.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.